We'll bring you the president's response in a short moment. Well, in its reaction, the All Progressives Congress described Atiku's proposal as desperation of the most pitiful kind. APC National Publicity Secretary Felix Morka, in the post on X, accuses the former vice president of flip-flopping, saying the proposal is an admission of Atiku being clueless and out of touch with Nigeria's economic realities. He praised the economic reforms of the Tinubu administration, arguing that they have recorded transformative progress. Morka challenges Atiku to come up with alternative economic policies. Well, to discuss more on this, we do have our guest joining us from the Lagos Broadcast Center tonight. He is Professor Franklin, who is the director of the Lagos Business School Public Sector Initiative. Of course, the impact of the fuel subsidy removal, government savings, and the use of the savings. Thank you so much, Professor, for being on the news tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Well, let me begin by asking you, for the first time, we are having the breakdown, official breakdown by the government, and a figure put to subsidy savings, 15.8 trillion naira. Did that come to you as a surprise?
Given what we've been spending on subsidy in the previous years, that we've saved 15-point-something trillion, or that we've received about 15-point-something trillion from the subsidy removal, I mean, it's not a surprise. What will be a surprise is more or less what the money was spent on and what the money was used for. According to the Minister of Finance, he said that federal government maybe collected or took 5-point-something trillion, about 10-point-something trillion shared to states and local government. But what is now not clear is what the money was spent. Was it for, maybe he said that the federal government own was used more or less in paying salaries. But for the states, we are not sure what the state governors and the local government chairmen did with their own. Did they use it for transport or for education or for health? Or was it just squandered? Nobody knows. So that's our questions Nigeria deserves to know, because when subsidy was removed, it was stated that it will be used for different critical, important sectors of the economy. So we are not sure what the state governors or the government chairman have done with their own.
The finance minister also gave a breakdown of what it has used, what the federal government has used its share of about 5 trillion naira to do, including payment of salaries, and even had to make up excess because it says it got 5 trillion, but so far it has spent over 9 on recurrent from 2023 up until 2025. When you hear Nigerians say they haven't benefited from subsidy savings, and you look at the breakdown by the finance minister, do you appreciate the concerns of Nigerians and the mismatch between what the government says and what's on ground?
I totally agree with the concerns of Nigeria this year. So in the sense that if we are saying that we use the federal government own to pay salaries, the question then is how many people are employed by the federal government? From account, it said about 1.5 million people. The core civil servants, about 720,000 people. And we're talking about a country of 240-something million people. So the question then is that you've used all the money that you saved from subsidy removal just for about 1.5 million Nigerians. So what happens to the remaining maybe 230-something million Nigerians? That means that they've not benefited anything. Rather, what they've actually gained can be said to be hardship in terms of increased transportation, increased inflation, increased this. So hardship generally. And that's the reason why Nigerians are asking what happened to the subsidy removal money, how did they spend it and all that. And in the states as well, no state governor has actually told Nigerians what they've done with the subsidy money that they received. So the questions that Nigerians are asking are very valid. And not only that, if you look at the economy, poverty is still increasing, unemployment is increasing, insecurity is increasing, infrastructure, we're seeing pockets of infrastructure being done, but generally, infrastructure decay is still there. So Nigerians are asking, and rightfully asking, what has the subsidy money used for? So they are right, and we need more answers. Now that the Minister of Finance commendably has told Nigerians that federal government received about 5 trillion. But the next question then will be for states, for all of us to start asking different state governors, what did they do with their money? So people, like somebody like me from Enugu State, will be asking our governor, what did you do with the share of the money you received? I will be asking my local government chairman, what did they do with what they received? So we need to be asking this question so we can have more accountability, transparency in terms of the way the resources of this country are being used.
Professor Ungu, finally, let me just ask you so I can let you go. We have the campaigns on already, and of course, the first economic debate is on subsidy. Former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, who is also the presidential candidate of the ADC, says he will reintroduce fuel subsidy. President Bola Tinubu says that's been ignorant of governance and the economy. Do you think Nigeria should return to, perhaps let me let you listen to what the president said. Professor Ungu, stay with us. This is President Bola Tinubu's response to Atiku Abubakar.
I saw one of my opponents now say he will go back to subsidy. I read it. That is demonstration of a serious ignorance on governance and economy. Before I came here, 27 states are unable to pay salaries. Not to even talk of pensioners, salary of workers. In your state, I know a man that raised, who is nicknamed half salary. They come to the federal, cap in hand, unable to do anything. The salary you pay feeds families. Where are the local governments?
Well, Professor Franklin Ungu, that's the president's response to Atiku Abubakar, who says he will reintroduce fuel subsidy if elected as president of Nigeria. What do you make of the debate?
I mean, the debates from the different perspectives, people can argue that bringing back subsidy as advocated by the former vice president, of course, if subsidy is brought back, it will bring short-term gains in terms of reducing the cost, maybe pump price, maybe also reducing the cost of certain things, but it will create severe pressures on the economy. One, it will increase borrowing, it will reduce spending on infrastructure. That is, I'm being purely from an economic point of view. It will also increase, as I said before, government borrowing, reduce money for infrastructure, reduce other critical areas of the economy. However, when you look at the other reasons given by the former vice president, that the money for subsidy that we receive from subsidy, we don't know what we've done with it, then you begin to think what he's saying, is it valid, do you support it or not? But from pure economic point of view, I will not suggest for the subsidy to be brought back. Rather, what we are supposed to be asking is how do we ensure judicious and prudent, accountable and transparent use of the resources that we receive from the subsidy. So a typical example is that, as we all know, the insecurity that we are facing now can be attributed to lack of planning 20 years back, 15 years back, 10 years back, which has now created bandits, terrorists in different parts of the country, particularly from the north. So if, for instance, we say that we are using the money from subsidy to address the issue of out-of-school children, which is currently about 18 million in Nigeria, then it's clear that this is what is being used for. And also, when you look at critical sectors of the economy that we are supposed to use to sustain the economy, I'm talking about health and education, we can see that all the money for subsidy should be channeled into these sectors. Those are the ways through which you can use the subsidy money to really reignite the economy, to really lubricate the economy, to really sustain the economy and all that. So the former vice president arguing or advocating to bringing back subsidy can be said to be outdated and might not be the right policy to follow. And of course, Mr. President saying that he is ignorant and that some of the states could not pay salaries can also be questioned in the sense that all the state governors in Nigeria need to be innovative, need to create out resources from their states and should be able to be viable to sustain their states. If the governor cannot pay salaries, it means that the governor is not able to lead the state favorably. The state cannot be depending on the federal government to get money to pay salaries when they have all the resources in their states to be able to pay salaries. So the debate that the former vice president does not know what he's saying is mainly caused by the inability of the federal government and the state government and the local government to clearly show transparency, accountability in the way this subsidy money has been used. And that's why all of us are calling for more accountability, more transparency, more prudent ways in terms of the way we use resources of this country.
Indeed. And that brings me to the argument also, because government says subsidy removal was about ending leakages and corruption, Professor Ungu. So in the argument that if the loopholes are dealt with, because you say it's outdated to return subsidy, but if the question is about leakages and corruption and that's dealt with, then can subsidy return?
No. I believe that even if when the leakages are closed and stopped and all that, I keep saying that our leaders need to rethink and reimagine Nigeria. The idea of saying we want to bring back subsidy, if you look at all the different economic issues, all the economic problems, socioeconomic problems that we're having in Nigeria, and in terms of where we are supposed to be as a country, I do not think that bringing subsidy will be the right way to go. There are other critical sectors requiring this money that we've saved. As I mentioned earlier on, let's look at education. There's no Nigerian university listed among the top universities, among the top 100 universities. Our health facilities are nothing to write home about. So Nigerians are not even benefiting. And of course, when you bring subsidy back, it means that the fuel price will become cheaper, will become far, far more cheaper as compared to other West African countries. What this means is that now smuggling will resume, now that will resume. And also, when you remember that Nigeria is a country that cannot be characterized or said to be very good in rule of law, regulatory quality, government effectiveness, the idea that the leakages will be plugged and this one will be done and this one will be blown is also questionable. So my suggestion is more or less, let's rethink the use of the subsidy money to critical areas and say we're going to focus on education, we're going to focus on agriculture, we're going to focus on health, we're going to focus on, look at SMEs. A report also showed that most of the SMEs, those ones looking for 500,000 to 30 million, nobody is really providing loan for them. And those are the critical backbone of the economy that should be supported. So there are critical areas that we can use this money for that will actually show more impact, that will actually generate more impact, more this into the economy than bringing the subsidy back. Bringing the subsidy back at the end of the day will just benefit some few people again. We start bringing this accounting, people submitting invoices, people doing this one and all that. I think we've passed that stage, and bringing it back will be more or less taking the policy backwards. And most investors actually wonder about our policy inconsistency. Now that we've moved away, we've removed subsidy, we are now at the point of questioning in terms of the transparency, accountability about subsidy. The next question then is, how do we use our resources? How do we move forward from the subsidy issue, not bringing it back? I don't think any economist or any particular economist will suggest or should suggest that the subsidy should be brought back. We've moved beyond that level. And the global economy and the global society are also moving into other areas of development that we're not even started at all.
Thank you very much, Professor Franklin Ugu, Director of the Lagos Business School Public Sector Initiative, for your insight on this topic. We do appreciate your time.